Welcome to another episode of the Chrissie Mayr podcast. We are coming to you on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. And if you're listening to us on iTunes right now, please leave a 5-star review. I appreciate them so much. Stand up, yes. Come see me do stand up in Jersey, New Jersey. The best of the Jerseys, New Jersey. Saturday, June 12th. I'm going to be at Tiff's Ale House in Morris Plains, New Jersey. For tickets, go to my website, chrissiemayr.com. That's going to be an awesome show. Getting together a couple of potential special guests for that. So check it out if you're in the Jersey area. Plus a lot of dates coming up for the rest of the summer and into the fall. Going to do Vegas, going to do New Orleans, going back to Texas. So I'm so excited to get up all over this country. I mean, really just the states I like, but I'm out there. Quick shout out to our sponsor, Cushy Dreams. All right, guys, I'm going to tell you guys about Cushy Dreams. They offer a full lineup of premium smokable CBD. They specialize in extraordinary CBD-rich hemp flower, also known as bud, in cans and pre-roll CBD joints like the one right here. Tastes great, looks, smells just like high-quality marijuana, but it's not. It's not going to get you high. These products have under 3% THC, so you can enjoy all the health benefits of CBD without going out to lunch, getting the munchies. It's cannabis that ships directly to you, and it's legal in all 50 states. Join the men and women who are sick of vapes and gummies and want to smoke their CBD. They take the artisan approach. Every run is in a small batch, 100% hand trimmed, never machine trimmed, independent lab tests, which you can see the results on their website to show compliance and purity. All the results are posted on their website. Each batch is slow cured for 2 to 4 weeks to guarantee maximum freshness and preserve flavor and cannabinoids. And best of all, it's grown here in the USA. So go to cushydreams.com, Kushy dreams.com. Use promo code CMP to get 20% off every order. And I believe free shipping as well. So get on it, boys and girls. I really like it. It's good for anxiety. It's natural stuff. I am a big fan of that instead of, pills and other stuff. Guys, I'm so excited to have this gal on the pod today. She is a recent graduate of Syracuse University. She is a campus free speech advocate. This gal's going places. So excited to have her on. It's Justine Brooke Murray. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I sometimes feel like I'm hosting a comedy show, so I bring people to the digital stage here on the pod. Love the hair, love the look.
Thank you.
Love everything. I caught my eye because you're like this young, very with it gal. You're clear, like you're clearly going places. I caught you on Twitter. You announced that you were going to work for OAN. It seems like you without getting into too much detail, you're on the track there to hopefully become a reporter, which is amazing. Did you go to, I imagine you went to Syracuse for their communication program or for like that sort of reporter track? Did you always want to go that way?
I did. I actually went for political science in the university's Maxwell School, and I had hoped to do the communication school, which is Newhouse, but I ultimately just worked at the campus TV station and then worked at Campus Reform as a campus reporter reporting on leftist bias and abuse.
And okay, when I went to college, I graduated in 2005. Like there was no assault on free speech like there is now. And I think I was on the campus news channel too, except like my big project was like as a sketch that I filmed of myself like just jumping into the pond. And I was like, it was this lame sketch. Like I was this duck and goose like lifeguard. It was really horrible. What I'm trying to say is you sound like your work is actual journalism. What kind of I can't imagine this was received well, like a Syracuse, like a very liberal school. How was your reporting on free speech going there?
Yeah, it was not perceived well. That's one of the reasons why I was off campus for my entire senior year, because I actually started getting death threats for both.
What?
Yeah, for being a conservative activist, covering issues with free speech on our campus, covering protests that were getting really, really insane. Students on campus, they occupied buildings for months, advocating for segregated rooming options based on race. And the campus mob, and it was a mob because you had a mob of screaming students and even faculty members calling to fire the chancellor because he did not state in a statement that the university was founded off white supremacy. And when I tried to cover this stuff, students actually mobbed me numerous times when I was on the scene as a reporter, just standing in the back trying to get B-roll, which is basically just footage of these protests and these insane scenes. It was almost like a little mini version of what was going on in Portland, less violent, but kind of on the pathway. And after that, professors started targeting me, my own professors online and in person. One professor grabbed me by the shoulder. I didn't even know her. She just came up to me and said, "You better watch out." So
God.
Yep, it wasn't safe to come back. And I had to do work remotely, not just because of COVID. But ultimately, it was still an interesting experience being at Syracuse. And my reporting did get me on stage with the President Trump, as he signed the campus free speech executive order.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, that's very impressive. And then when did you, so how soon after you started reporting on what you were seeing on your campus did you start getting this backlash? And like, what were you, what else were you covering that was like giving you, the students and teachers were giving you so much flack for?
Right. Well, I started getting backlash for just being an outspoken, proud American in general. Before I even got into major reporting on campus during my freshman year, I was actually banned from this they called it the multicultural living and learning community in my freshman dorm for dressing up as the First Lady Melania Trump for Halloween. And eventually,
Wow. Which is allowed. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, they called it racist, and they said that she was anti-diverse, despite that she's from a different country and she speaks multiple different languages, and it was really backwards. But my first run-in with the SU administration was when I was reporting on the shutdown of this Middle East dialogue, and it was supposed to be where Jews and Arabs and Christians on campus all got together and talked about the Middle East conflict. And it wasn't supposed to be biased at all. It was just people sharing their views. And I covered this incident where it was actually shut down by anonymous boycott, divest, and sanctions protesters who didn't like Israel. They complained because it was taking place on Hanukkah. So they thought it would be too pro-Jewish. And when I reported on this, I received a not so nice email from the university's comms director telling me that my reporting was false, although we found out it was not false before it was published. And she didn't want to give us comment before it was published. She only commented once it was published, and she was angry that the university wasn't getting the greatest media coverage. So that was my first time. And then I actually got in trouble with my own campus TV station, which was actually peddling the leftist agenda on campus. They threatened to kick me out of their station numerous times, and even did at one point because of my reporting for campus reform.
What specifically did you notice at the TV station that that was sort of like, oh, wow, I don't like the way this is going?
I was auditioning to be an anchor, and the beat was a story on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and they told the people auditioning to play one side and the other side. So I prefaced my statement or my question as this anchor, let me play the devil's advocate, because I was talking to a supposedly pro-Palestinian commentator. I said, Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. And that was a no-no in the campus TV station. I got a not so nice email a couple of weeks later telling me one of the reasons I did not get this anchor position was because I said that Israel was the only democracy in the Middle East. Apparently, that's not true, according to them. They stated that Turkey was also democracy. Now, my mother has some friends who actually had to flee Turkey for their religious freedom, but apparently that was considered a democracy. They would also tell conservative students, they would pull aside students from the College Republicans Club who were working at the station that they better not post anything conservative online. Meanwhile, those people telling us that, the people running the station, were posting a lot of liberal things online and were partaking in very vocal leftist protests on campus. So again, a double standard.
Such a double standard. Was it hard? And I think it's hard to be like a young person with such strong political beliefs to begin with, but especially now. I mean, like, you're getting backlash from leftists on campus, the administration, which is kind of shocking. And it seems like, I don't know, that they're really kind of overstepping here. Was this also affecting like your ability to kind of like meet and keep friends, or have you kind of just maintained this way all through college and like the people who know you and your friends are your friends?
I didn't have a lot of friends on campus. I had a couple. I have a good handful of friends, and that's all I needed. And I had a lot of friends in the conservative movement and the free speech movement in general. All my friends worked at Campus Reform, and they're in DC, and they're in DC with me right now. So I didn't really feel I was missing out on that aspect because I knew that, even if I had those friends, they weren't going to be real friends if I spoke out one day and they would ditch me for my views. But I would say my closest friend on campus was one professor who actually got flack herself. She started getting threatening emails herself for being a Zionist Jewish professor. And I could relate to her because we're both Zionist Jews on campus. So we kind of stuck together a little bit, and she mentored me throughout all of the censorship and all of these problems.
What is like the basic difference between like a Zionist Jew and other kinds? Like, I literally know nothing about this, but I know it's something you're very passionate about. So like, if you were to explain it to someone dumb, perhaps on this podcast with you, how would you, like, just so in case there's other people listening that aren't sure of the differences?
Zionism is the belief that Jewish people have a right to live in their ancestral homeland, to have a nation in their ancestral homeland. And most Jews in the world, about 90% of Jews, are Zionist, over 90%. So there's this idea that there are non-Zionist or anti-Zionist Jews, and there's a handful, but they're on the extreme. And it sounds like there's more than there actually are. That's just because they're the most vocal. Or you have a lot of people who are ethnically Jewish, and they say, well, I'm atheist now because being Jewish, being religious nowadays, just like being Christian, is considered uncool and anti.
And like too much work. Yeah.
So you have a lot of young people who don't even know about themselves yet. They're going into college and they're being told that being a Zionist, ultimately, which is the core of Judaism, that's bad. And they must completely reject that in order to be accepted in the progressive movement on campus and elsewhere. So they do that because they don't know any better and they want to remain cool. And, they'll realize later down the road that they still don't get accepted by some of these groups who are now telling them they can't even wave the Star of David on a flag in certain progressive marches.
Wow, that sounds really tough. So it sounds like basically just like Zionists believe like Jews are almost like entitled to like have Israel, like that's their promised like land from God, basically. Like I don't know anything. I was raised Methodist, and like I just went to church for like literally the egg hunts as a kid.
Well, it's the belief that they have the right to return and live in their ancestral homeland, their native homeland. Jewish people have lived there for thousands and thousands of years, and we kept getting kicked out for thousands and thousands of years. We kept getting kicked out and returning for thousands of years. So it's this pattern where that was where we were born. That was where Judaism was really born. And just like other countries, just like Muslim countries, there's only one Jewish country in the world. And it's a little bit concerning how the only Jewish country in the world is getting scrutinized for being Jewish, while you have over 20 Muslim countries in the world, and that's okay. You have over 50 Arab countries in the world, and that's okay. Christian countries, you have the Vatican. You have, countries with other state religions that are actually the rule of law. But the idea that you can't have one Jewish country, which is the ancestral homeland of the Jewish people, it's just another double standard.
Do you attribute your political leanings and your passions to how you were raised and your parents, or was this something that really came out just in college?
I would say I've definitely been influenced by both of my parents, but I've also influenced them because my mom was more conservative, while my dad, actually, he says he's a lapsed liberal. He used to be hippie until he married my mom and had me and my sister. And then, then he became more conservative. My mom kind of red-pilled him. And I listened to what they had to say, but I also listened to what people in my class had to say growing up throughout high school and college, and they were all very liberal. I was also in theater, so everyone I met, all of my friends were very liberal. So I kind of had a balance between conservative views, liberal views, and it didn't take me very long to figure out where I stood. I am more fiscally conservative and socially libertarian. But I've been influenced by both my family, which only my parents are conservative. A lot of people in my external family are very liberal. That's why we yell at each other all the time.
How did while you were going through all of this backlash, and especially like leading up to the point where you can't even go back to school for your senior year, or like didn't feel safe doing it, like, how did that make your family and your close friends feel? Were they worried for you? Were they like, hey, maybe you should step back from all this, Justine? Like, how were they feeling?
My parents were definitely worried. And when I started getting these attacks while I was still on campus, that's when they were more concerned. They had to after I contacted the campus police department numerous times, they started contacting the campus police department. And they promised that they would help me out a little bit. They said they were investigating certain situations, but nothing ever came of it. The administration, it just seemed like they kind of shoved it under the rug. And that's what really irked my parents, especially because they were concerned that while I was on campus, someone could come and hurt me or find me. And my parents are doting, so of course they would be afraid. But over the summer, when I really started getting death threats last summer, they didn't think that I would really return to campus after that. And they were right. They kept telling me, don't come back to campus. Now we really don't want you coming back. And I ultimately listened to them. Yeah.
Which is so hard because you're like, oh, now these idiots probably feel like, oh, like we won, like we, she's not back here. But ultimately you win because you're not being murdered or attacked. It's so easy to be like, oh, it's just words, like until something happens. And then it's too late. And that's really horrible. How does the campus reform, being a campus reform correspondent, like how do you and others, like you work to expose the biases on campuses? Like if somebody's listening to to this and they're like, ooh, that sounds like fun, I want to get in on that. So what kind of work do they do?
What we do is we write a lot of stories. So whenever a situation or incident happens on campus, for example, Rutgers University just apologized for condemning anti-Semitism. We screenshot the evidence. We get the proof. We get the footage.
Did they apologize for condemning anti-Semitism? Why on earth would they apologize for that?
They were pressured by anti-Israel activists and groups on campus saying that condemning anti-Semitism is somehow racist towards Palestinian students.
Oh my God. So they're like, oh, it's better to come off pro anti-Semitism. I think that's way worse. I mean, what do I know? I don't work at a college, but they were actually bullied into taking back what was like a kind of a nice gesture or a nice statement.
Yep. And they caved. I mean, this is a New Jersey school. I'm from New Jersey. I'm so disappointed. We're supposed to be Jersey strong here. You don't cave to the mob. That's why I'm very disappointed in Rutgers right now. And universities, they push out every single statement when any other group is getting attacked, even if it turns out not to be true, even when it turns out to be a Jussie Smollett incident. With the George Floyd incident last summer, I can't even count how many statements my university put out. But the fact that you get demonized and even pressured to apologizing just for condemning anti-Semitism, it's astonishing. I mean, you can condemn anti-Semitism and have various different views on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but you can't deny the fact that Jews are getting beaten up on the streets in America, in London, all across Europe, everywhere, in countries miles and miles away from where the conflict is actually happening. And to apologize for condemning it's backwards.
Yeah, it's wild. Like you wouldn't ever, if somebody was like, you need to apologize for being like anti-Asian violence or really any other group, like that would be unheard of. And I can't believe that it actually happens. Like it's wild. It's really unbelievable. Like these freaking schools are out of control. Yeah. Were you recruited for this, or did you sort of seek it out?
It was a little bit of both. During my sophomore year in college, I had a couple of conservative friends tell me about campus reform because I was complaining about a walkout happening in my class. It was an anti-Kavanaugh walkout, and the professor encouraged it. So I thought, damn it, where can I go to shed light on some of this insanity? And I was told you can apply to be a campus reporter, write on these issues. They also encourage students to do man-on-the-street interviews and really train budding reporters and people who really want to go into journalism for the long term. And I just got really excited. I jumped right into it. And here I am trying to be a reporter after graduation.
Wow. That's really awesome. It's really cool. I think it takes a lot of us like years to sort of like figure it out. And I just admire that you're able to like, you have such a clear path for yourself and your passions are like so aligned. I mean, it seems like, yeah, you work for years and the goal is like, oh, be a reporter for like any mainstream outlet. But now more so like OAN, which I feel like is like on the cutting edge, like that's the place to work for, not these like legacy media, like bullshit places. Did you same thing? Like, did you kind of seek that out, or did they sort of scout you, like as much as you can say there?
Yeah, I would say it was first me seeking it out throughout college. I was trying to make plans for what I would do post graduation, because I wanted to do this in the long term. So I just kept talking to people, going to a lot of events, political events, current events, oriented events, and trying to network with people and form relationships and keep in touch with those people. So then before I even graduated college, I got an opportunity and it was just really amazing. My parents were especially happy because they were glad I wasn't going to be sitting on their couch all summer.
Yeah. Wow. That's pretty amazing to like out of the pandemic be like, I have a job. Like it probably feels good. I probably would be like throwing it in my classmates' faces and be like, oh, look, I have a job. Tell me about interning at the White House. How was that?
That was another time of my life. That was the fall semester of my senior year. So the first semester I took off from campus and things kind of worked out because I was free to go back to campus. And then I got this wonderful opportunity where I interned under Vice President Mike Pence and even got to work on some campus free speech related issues. And I even had the opportunity to reach out to various professors across America who are facing cancel culture on their own campus and try to work on a couple of initiatives to get their voices out throughout the administration. And it was really sad that we couldn't do more and that our term ended, but I still hope to do that again on my own time.
How was it like? So it sounds like you worked like the closest with Pence. Like anybody else like notable in the White House that you kind of would deal with?
Yeah, we had the interns always had the opportunity to meet with various different leaders, and we would even have assemblies where people would get to talk to us and give students advice. We had Larry Kudlow speak to us. I got to run into Kayleigh McEnany a few times, and she's my idol, but I didn't get to speak with her, which I was a little sad about. One day.
Were you stressing about like what do you wear to intern at the White House? Were you like, I imagine if it was me, I'd be like, okay, just like play it safe, like no V-necks, not a lot of crazy cleavage. Like, I don't know. I feel like I would be sweating like what to wear every day.
I was a little bit, but I love dressing up. I'm a pageant girl, and eventually I just had this wardrobe that I would repeat basically every 2 weeks. And I always used to be afraid of outfit repeats, but when you're working in DC and you don't really have time to worry about that, you just kind of have to make things work. So I just started repeating some outfits, which was a major no-no for me at first.
Oh,
but it ultimately worked out. I got to wear suits, and I still wear the suits, but I used to wear suits to class. That was another reason.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Students kind of thought it was weird, but I love dressing up because my motto is if you dress well, you feel well, even if the rest of your day is going down the drain, at least if you look good, that's something you can kind of control by what you put on yourself.
Oh, absolutely. I've had just like horrible days where I'm like, well, at least my underwear matches. So, I have that. Were there, did you make friends with any of the other White House interns? Did a lot of you kind of like have the same ambitions and goals?
For sure. The White House internship program is probably where I made the most friends I've ever made throughout my entire time in college and even in high school. And it was the first time where I felt supported, where I felt that I actually had people to go out with, and that when I walked around campus, people weren't gonna give me dirty looks. And I even made some of my best friends. I met another Jewish student who we would actually go to Shabbat, and I don't know how to cook, but she knew how to cook. So I would go to her house every Friday night, and she would cook Shabbat dinner. And unfortunately, she lives across the country now. Aww. So yeah, we have to figure out our ways to keep in touch. But you would have communities within the program, and then the internship program as a whole was one big community of students who there were various different students who had various different political views. Even not everyone was a conservative, but we all agreed that the importance of free speech is so prevalent, and that you can't have any discussion without embracing free speech.
Yeah, absolutely. Where in the White House, like, would they let you go? Were they like, would they say like, oh, that wing's off limits, or like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, the interns, we didn't always get to go inside the West Wing or the exact White House all the time because we're students, we're still young, we still have yet to be completely trusted as young people.
Yeah.
But we did get a lot of opportunities where we would volunteer at events, which would require us to be inside the White House. And I actually remember we had to help set up for the White House Halloween party.
Ooh, did you dress up as Melania again and be like, take that?
actually dressed up as Kayleigh McEnany, not at the party, because we didn't really dress up. We let the kids dress up. But I did dress up as Kayleigh McEnany in the fall.
It's just you with like a nice dress. You're like, ta-da. Yeah.
I had, it was funny because I stole like this fake podium that was supposed to be, and it was from the White House. The interns actually created it as like a Halloween decoration. So I snagged it for the weekend to use as my Kayleigh. I could do the point,
Oh yeah. And you literally just need like a cross necklace, and what else does she wear all the time? Like, yeah, just some kind of a nice dress.
Yeah, I held a little baby doll that I bought on a whim to be baby Blake.
Aw. No, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Did you get to meet Trump at all? Other than like when that picture where he was like signing the I guess I don't know what he was. It's in your like profile background, your Twitter background. Yeah.
The free speech executive order. I did get to meet the president a couple of times, and we had a group photo where he spoke to us. And sometimes the interns would have the opportunity to stand on the South Lawn looking as the president came out of the door and went up in his helicopter or came out, and he would greet us, and we'd all get to wave American flags, which that was probably my favorite moments because it was really surreal and felt like it was in a movie. I couldn't even believe what I was seeing. Sometimes he would come out with the first lady. One time I saw Ivanka Trump, which was, I couldn't even believe it in my wildest dreams.
I bet she's like stunning in person. I mean, like she's gorgeous. Just pictures of her online. Like I don't know. I feel like she's probably like just a smoke show.
Oh yeah, she's another icon. She's another female who I look up to for fashion advice. And I'll just flip through the outfit she's wearing for a nice business professional / supermodel look. But
yeah.
And all the women are all the women in the administration were gorgeous, and they were also very smart. And that's just something that I really emulated.
Yeah. Well, you're doing a pretty good job so far. Tell me about Miss Northern Highlands.
Yeah, so Miss Northern Highlands is my title in the Miss New Jersey, which is part of the Miss America organization. And I am actually competing for Miss New Jersey in 2 weeks. And
ooh, I'm going to bring this up on the screen so people know where to vote for you. Okay, continue.
Each girl has the opportunity to promote what they call a social impact initiative that they really care about. So my social impact is Operation Restoring Free Speech in Higher Education. How fitting. So
yeah, wow.
Yep, I plan to take my fight for free speech to the Miss New Jersey stage, because what better state to promote this in than New Jersey? We are known for being vocal. We are known for sometimes being politically incorrect, but telling the truth ultimately. And I believe that I can really get my message across to the people of New Jersey and hopefully everyone, hopefully the entire country. But I hope to start, if I do get to win Miss New Jersey, by visiting various colleges across the state and also high schools and maybe even elementary schools to start bringing out the message, restoring the message of academic freedom and free speech and education, because you can't have education without that very first principle, the first thing under the Constitution. It was the First Amendment for a reason. The founding fathers listed it first for a reason. So that's why we really have to make sure people know why it was the First Amendment.
I agree. And I think a lot of people, or maybe just these people I end up getting in arguments with on Twitter, people don't understand the difference between free speech and like harassment. Like just the other day I was arguing with some guy on Twitter. He was somehow able to like do the mental gymnastics that like, oh, free speech means, oh, so you saying like you can just talk to kids? I'm like, no, like certainly not. Nobody is equating free speech with like harassment or like being a creep online. And it's very frustrating to have to just like go through and explain that to people. Like it was it ultimately was, I think, created just so we could have differences of opinion on politics and religion, and just so you can speak your mind. It's not about like, oh yeah, this free speech exists so you can be a weirdo to kids online.
Yeah. Oh, of course. When I was getting harassed and when I was getting death threats, students would get angry with me, and they would even try to turn it into some statement. See, Justine, I guess you're against free speech because you don't like getting death threats. And I'm like,
oh my God, what a psycho. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure death threats that's actually illegal. So there's actually a couple of extremes, things you can't do. You can't shout fire in a movie theater. They can't tell people you're going to kill them. That is actually already illegal. So this is the problem. People haven't even read the Constitution. They haven't even read the First Amendment. So they don't even know, and they don't even read our laws. They don't have a civics education in our country. So they don't even know what's legal and what is not, and what is actually free speech. But they think that sometimes they'll say, oh, harassment though means having a different opinion, means raising objections to critical race theory. That's harassment. That's hate speech, and they want that to be banned.
What did Syracuse do, if anything, when you were getting these death threats? How are you getting them, over social media or over email?
I was getting them over social media, and my professor was getting violent threats actually through her school email. And the university pulled us in various different meetings with counselors telling us, oh, we're so sorry for you. We're investigating this situation, and we hope you feel
so sorry for you. Yeah.
And they ultimately, I actually asked to follow up on the investigation. They said, oh, we can't give you any details, even though they promised they would give me details before. The FBI actually had to get involved last summer because they were concerned about the university's lack of inaction. And at one point, when I was getting harassed by professors, the administration told me to file a complaint. And they gave me the details to do that. So I filed the complaint. And then months later, after speaking to me in various different meetings, they tell me, oh, you wanted to file a complaint? Well, you didn't file a formal complaint. And there's actually this thing called a formal complaint, which they never told me about.
Oh my God. So trickery, misdirection. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're trying to confuse you. This is like, so when these messages are like that, your professor and or your mentor and you got, were they from people you knew?
Most of the harassment and doxing were from people I knew. The death threats were from anonymous accounts, and then the emails to my professor were anonymous as well. But there was also another conservative student who, while I was getting death threats, she was also getting death threats. And students who identified themselves with their names on Twitter said that she should be shot in the head, and that they want all conservatives to, quote, get beaten, but they said beat.
Yeah.
And they would just espouse, and that's what really irked me. The fact that they knew they weren't going to get in trouble for saying this stuff online. So they attached their names to it. Yet they were trying to get my professor, my conservative colleague, and I all expelled from the school for our own views.
It's pretty wild because you would think with these these kids, with kids, young adults your age, that they're on top of social media, and why they aren't seeing, just one example is Chrissy Teigen, her kind of recent canceling, and all the stores kind of dropping her. Oh, and it's my dog. Hi, Muffin. Just dropping all of her stuff, her cookware, because she was found out to be this massive bully. She was bullying this teenage girl, telling her to kill herself. And I'm amazed that these students, either they're just so bold, it won't be anonymous. Not that I'm pro anonymous death threats. They're all terrible, but that they're so bold to have their names attached. They don't care because they feel yeah, we're going to get away with it. We're all together and hating conservatives and Republicans. And it's an accepted pastime And that's just like, that's very upsetting to me.
Yeah, it roots back to entitlement. These students, our generation, they feel entitled because they were told growing up and in college that they have somehow been wronged by this country. And now the government, whether it be the government, their own parents, celebrities, schools, they owe them free things. And they don't have to work for them. They don't have to earn them. They just deserve. I can't even believe that some of these protesters, actually the entire protest movement on my campus, demanded that as they were illegally occupying the floor of our chancellor's building for a month with their sleeping bags,
how is that allowed? So they just all got their sleeping bags and just like camped out? Was it like a dorm floor, or was it just like a random floor?
It was just a random floor. It started out for 2 weeks in the fall in this new gym, and it was also called a wellness center that was built because of protesters and the same people calling for a building so they could have mental health therapy. They ruined the building by going in the building for 2 weeks with their food and their sleeping bags, and then for a month later in the spring, the chancellor's building for a month. And while they were doing this, they were demanding that the university makes the professors just give them off. Just they don't have to do any work. They don't have to go to class, and they can't get downgraded for that, or otherwise it's racist and it's anti-protest, whatever that means. So wow. At first, for like the first couple of hours this was all happening, the administration did threaten to suspend the students. And then, of course, the students put their cameras in the administrators' faces and smeared them online. They got a bunch of famous blue check marks on Twitter to back them up.
Oh, God. Wow. It's like, yeah, like, of course, all last summer, you see riots and protesting encouraged. So it's like, of course, on a smaller level, they're encouraging the students at this school to just not go to class and calling a protest. I mean, I wish I had thought of that. It's kind of a smart idea. Yeah.
If I would get laughed, people would laugh in my face. If I imagine one conservative student, I'm protesting for free speech, occupies a building for a month and demanding free stuff. I mean, they would get booted right out of the school. It's just ridiculous. And it's almost laughable if it didn't get so threatening where people started threatening students.
And that's the thing. It's allowed to happen because it is so many students. It's like, it's a mob mentality. They become bullies. Like if it was just one student, like they'd be like, oh, this is kind of silly, but like they're kind of emboldened by the group. And it sounds like the officials are not being the adults in the situation and standing up and being like, yeah, get your ass back to class. Like go back to your dorm that your parents are shelling out money for you to sleep in. That's very sad. And it's probably very distracting to attend university with all of this going on. It's probably just so distracting. Like, how do you focus on, like, college is hard enough as it is.
Yeah, I couldn't focus. And, I love doing a bunch of extracurricular activities. So it already took me a little while to try to focus in the first place. And then when all these campus protests were going on, that just upped the ante with, good luck to anyone trying to get their work done.
It's insane. I can't believe you. I feel like it's made you a stronger person. It sucks that you have to go through that, but I just feel like your path kind of unfolds for you for a reason, to make you a better person. Were you involved at the time with Prager U, or did that come a little bit later? Like,
I started with Prager U as a student ambassador, part of their student program, as a sophomore, right when I started with Campus Reform. And then this past year, I actually got invited to be a Prager U Influencer, where I get to make social media posts and videos and really promoting Prager University, just as they've promoted me and thousands of other students on campus and elsewhere. So that's something really exciting, and it's still new to me because I just became an influencer in April.
Oh, wow. How does that work? So like, what will they like, how does it work in terms of like you getting to post, or like, is it pretty open? Like what they'll let you post, or is it really just like whatever you are feeling passionate about?
Yeah. Sometimes they'll ask us for certain topics. So there'll be a major topic of the week. And our the people who run the student program, they'll try to reach out to students who are passionate about a particular topic. Maybe they know they're passionate about that topic to speak on it. So with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, or with campus free speech, or just overall American wokeness. Those are a couple of topics I'm really interested in. So I'll make a couple of videos on that. Or they'll just give a lot of power to all the students to just do whatever they want, be creative. We kind of bounce off each other for ideas and for advice on improving the quality and the content in your video. So it's another nice way to make friends in the conservative movement when you're young and you don't feel like you have a lot on campus.
Do you get to meet a lot of the other Prager U influencers like in person, or has it mostly been like all kind of over Zoom?
Because of COVID, it's been on Zoom so far, but I have met a lot of Prager U influencers in person in the past, just going to CPAC. And I was actually invited a couple of years ago to this Prager U summit in Los Angeles, my first and only time in Los Angeles, and probably the only reason why I'll ever go back.
You're like, and I won't be back.
Yeah. But it was really great to be able to meet them. I had the opportunity to be on Dennis Prager's show, on his radio show. And then when he does a fireside chat, sometimes students will get to videotape their own questions for him to answer. And he is such a wonderful mentor to the entire program. And of course, there's Will Witt and Amala, who is new. And I've been able to make friends with them both, and they really like to mentor students as well.
That's good. Yeah, it sounds like, all right. What Syracuse did not give you, you're making up for with, these other groups. And yeah, it looks like you've got an exciting future ahead. I can't wait to talk to you later on after you start your job about how things are going. But yeah, this is exciting. It was good to talk to you, Justine. Where can people find you and follow you and, keep up with you?
Yeah, well, first, it was so great speaking with you. And again, thank you so much for letting me share my story. You can follow me on Twitter at Justine_Brooke. So the J and the B are capitalized, and then you have _BROOKE. Or on my Instagram, Justine Brooke Murray. That is just my full name, no underscore. And that's also the same for Twitter and not Twitter, I'm sorry, Facebook. And I believe for TikTok, I'm starting to get involved with TikTok. I'm a little bit iffy on it. And of course, I would love to have your vote for People's Choice for Miss New Jersey so I can continue promoting free speech at the New Jersey level.
Oh, yeah. And where can people vote for you for that? I think it's missnj.org.
Yep. I'm trying to get the exact link. It is in my bio. So if you click on the link in my bio on my Twitter page, that's where you'll find it. You'll scroll down to my headshot where I'm kind of like smiling like this. And you just vote for me there.
And when can people vote until? Is there like a cutoff?
There is. You can vote until, I have to double check. I think it's around June 15th, June 16th. So it's actually the week of the competition.
Oh, okay. Okay, awesome. I'll put the link in the details below so everybody can vote for you. Justine, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I'll talk to you soon.